Chapter 4, at Florisham Blotts. Blotts? Probably Blotts. Life at the Burrow was different as possible from life on Privet Drive. The Dursleys liked everything neat and ordered. The Weasleys' house burst with the strange and unexpected. Harry got a shock the first time he looked at the mirror over the kitchen mantelpiece, and it shouted, "Tuck, you shouldn't, Scruffy." The ghoul in the attic howled and dropped pipes whenever he felt things were getting too quiet, and the small explosions from Fred and George's bedrooms were considered perfectly normal. What Harry found most unusual about life at Ron's, however, wasn't the talking mirror or the clanking ghoul. It was the fact that everybody there seemed to like him. Miss Weasley fussed over the state of his socks and tried to force him to eat 4 helpings at every meal. Mr. Weasley liked Harry to sit next to him at the dinner table so that he could bombard him with questions about life with Muggles, asking him to explain how things like plugs and postal service worked. "Fascinating," he would say as Harry talked him to the telephone. "Ingenious, really. How many ways Muggles have found of getting along without magic." Harry heard from Hogwarts one sunny morning about a week after he had arrived at the Burrow. He and Ron went down to breakfast to find Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and Ginny already sitting at the table. The moment she saw Harry, Ginny accidentally knocked over a porridge bowl to the floor with a loud clatter. Ginny seemed very prone to knocking things over whenever Harry entered a room. She dived under the table to retrieve the bowl and emerged with her face glowing like the setting sun. Pretending he hadn't noticed this, Harry sat down and took the toast Mrs. Weasley offered him. "Letters from school," said Mr. Weasley. "Letters from school," said Mrs. Weasley, passing Harry and Ron identical envelopes of yellow parchment, addressed in green ink. Dumbledore already knows you're here, Harry. Doesn't miss a trick, that man. Doesn't miss a trick, that man. You two got them too," he added as Fred and George ambled in, still in their pajamas. For a few moments there was silence and they all read their letters. Harry told him to catch the Hogwarts Express as usual from King's Cross Station on September 1st. There was also a list of new books he needed for the coming year. Second-year students will require the Standard Book of Spells, Grade 2. Again, I'm not reading the names of these books because they're so hard to read. All these random names. Break with Banji. Grading with Ghouls. Holidays with Hags. Is that offensive? Hags. No, that's probably just a creature. Travels with Trolls. Voyages with Vampires. Wandering with Werewolves. Wow. Wait, what? By Lockhart. Wait, Break with Banji by Lockhart. Grading with Ghouls by Lockhart. Holidays with Hags by Lockhart. Travels with Trolls by Lockhart. Voyages with Vampires by Lockhart. Wanderings with Werewolves by Lockhart. Year with the Yeti by Lockhart. What? Oh gosh, that's... What? Fred, who had finished his own list, peered over Harry's. "You've been told to get all Lockhart's books too," he said. The new Defense Against the Dark Art teacher must be a fan. Bet it's a witch. At this point, Fred caught his mother's eyes and quickly busied himself with the marmalade. That lot won't come cheap," said George, with a quick look at his parents. "Lockhart's books are very expensive." Well, we'll manage," said Mrs. Weasley, but she looked worried. "I expect we'll be able to pick up a lot of Ginny's things secondhand." "Oh, you're starting at Hogwarts this year?" Harry asked Ginny. She nodded, blushing to the roots of her flaming hair, and put her elbow in the butter dish. Fortunately, no one saw this except Harry, because just then Ron's elder brother Percy walked in. He was already dressed in Hogwarts' prefect badge and pinned to his sweater vest. Morning all, said Percy briskly. "Lovely day." He sat down in the only remaining chair, but leapt up again almost immediately, pulling from underneath him a molten gray feather duster. At least that was what Harry thought it was, until he saw it was breathing. "Errol," said Ron, taking out the limp owl from Percy and finally extracting a letter from under its wing. "Finally! He got Hermione's answer. I wrote to her saying we were going to try to rescue you from Dursley's." He carried Errol to the perched just inside the back door, and tried to stand him on it. But Errol flopped straight off again, so Ron laid him on the draining board instead, muttering "pathetic" when he ripped open Hermione's letter and read it out loud. "Dear Ron, and Harry if you're there, I hope everything went all right, and that Harry is okay, and that you didn't do anything illegal to get him out, Ron, because that would get Harry in trouble too. I've been really worried, and if Harry is all right, will you please let me know at once? But perhaps it would be better if you used a different owl, because I think another delivery might finish your one off. I'm very busy with schoolwork, of course." "How can she be?" said Ron in horror. "We're on vacation, and we're going to London next Wednesday to buy new books. Why don't we meet in Diagon Alley? Oh, wait. And we're going to London next Wednesday to buy new books. Why don't we meet in Diagon Alley? Let me know what's happening as soon as you can. Love, from Hermione." "Well, that fits nicely. We can go and get all of your things then, too," said Mrs. Weasley, starting to clear the table. "What are you all up to today?" Harry, Ron, Fred, and George were planning to go up the hill to a small paddock the Weasleys owned. It was surrounded by trees that blocked it from the view of the village below, meaning that they could practice Quidditch there, as long as they didn't fly too high. They couldn't use real Quidditch balls, which had been hard to explain if they had escaped and flown away over the village. Instead, they threw apples for one another to catch. They took turns riding Harry's Nimbus 2000, which was easily the best broom. Ron's old shooting star was often outstripped by passing butterflies. 5 minutes later, they were marching up the hill, broomsticks over their shoulders. They had asked Percy if he wanted to join them, but he had said he was busy. Harry had only seen Percy at mealtime so far. He stayed shut in his room the rest of the time. "Wish I knew what he was up to," said Fred, frowning. "He's not himself. His exam results came the day before you did. 12 owls. And he hardly gloated at all." Ordinary wizarding levels, George explained, seeing Harry's puzzled looks. "Bill got 12 too. If we were not careful, we'll have another head boy in the family. I don't think I could stand the shame." Bill was the oldest Weasley brother. He and the next brother, Charlie, had already left Hogwarts. Harry had never met either of them, but he knew Charlie was in Romania studying dragons, and Bill was in Egypt. Something got stuck under my nail. Okay. And Bill was in Egypt, working for the Wizards Bank Gringotts. "Don't know how Mom and Dad are going to afford all of our school stuff this year," said George after a while. 5 sets of Lockhart books, and Ginny needs robes and a wand and everything." Harry said nothing. He felt a bit awkward stored in an underground vault at Gringotts in London was a small fortune that his parents had left him. Of course, it was only in the wizarding world that he had money.